Today's health tip: protect your brain and decrease your risk for dementia by knowing your body composition. This study is from the Neuroradiology Journal, and it looked at blood flow to the brain and how it actually changes with aging. And this can lead to brain dysfunction. So, what we see here in the body of the results was that most studies found a gradual decline in blood flow per year as someone aged, right? And they give you the numbers here. But the basic translation from this study is that brain blood flow declines with age. So, what happens when you have less blood flow to the brain? Well, this can lead to impaired learning and memory problems. We have edema, which is a swelling of the brain, and this is actually quite damaging to the brain. We also have white matter lesions. Now, the white matter of your brain would be the connective areas of the brain. You can think of them as relay stations in the brain that connect different brain areas. And so the white matter is very important for coordinating different brain functions. And when you have decreased blood flow, you have problems with the white matter. We also start to see accumulation of toxic proteins that are associated with dementia. Now, what are some of the causes of decreased brain blood flow? Anatomic lesions are one. So, for example, if you have a blocked carotid artery, which is the artery in your neck that supplies blood to the brain, if that vessel is blocked and you have one on either side of your neck, if you have a blocked carotid artery, then you're going to have less blood flow to the brain, and sometimes people will have a stroke as a result. Other causes would be poor body composition, low oxygenation states, toxins such as processed foods, and sugar. So now let's look at body composition. That's what we're going to focus on today. This is a study from the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease in 2020. And what they were looking at was blood flow to the brain as a function of obesity in adults. And they studied a lot of people, over 17,000 people. What they found was that when we had more weight, more fat in the adult, then we had decreased blood flow to the brain. These are some of the areas that they studied: the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe, the hippocampus. These are all the fancy names for the different areas of the brain. What you can see here on this graph is as the weight increased, right, blood flow started to drop really quite significantly. So you can see a marked drop in blood flow to the brain. And the translation from this study is that blood flow to the entire brain decreases with overweight and obesity. And we even see this in young people. So it doesn't just have to be people who are, aging and maybe going into their 60s and so forth. We see it in people in their 20s as well. Here is another study, and this looked at obesity, brain volume, and white matter with MRI. And this is from the UK Biobank. They had a lot of people here that they could look at and examine. And really, in the men, the mean percent body fat was about 25%. So, right on the border of obesity. And for women, again, 35.5%, again, on the border of obesity. And what they realized was that the total body fat was positively associated with global white matter lesions and brain connectivity. Here we go again with the white matter, right? So what we're seeing is that the higher the body fat, then the more of these white matter lesions, more damage to the white matter of the brain. And again, you'll remember the white matter connects different areas of the brain and is very important for brain function. So the translation from this study is the more fat you are made of, the less blood flow to the brain again. So we see a similar message. Here, we're looking at the MRI to compare someone with a normal body fat and then a high body fat. So on the left is the normal brain, but on the right, you'll notice with high body fat that the holes, the dark areas, seem to be bigger. And the reason for this is because the brain itself has shrunk. And so there's less brain tissue, and so you see more of the dark areas, right? They're called the ventricles here, but you see the dark areas which don't hold any brain tissue. Now, when you have less blood flow to the brain, you obviously are going to get less oxygen and less nutrients to the brain. Oxygen is really important for brain function, and neurons, which are the cells in your brain, they are very sensitive to low oxygenation states. So whenever you have a state of low oxygen, you're going to stress out those nerves, and over time they start to die. And when they die, the whole brain shrinks, right? Again, they're not getting enough oxygen, they're not getting enough nutrients. So now, as they die off, the brain shrinks. We have a smaller brain volume, and that has been shown to be correlated to higher risk for dementia. So the takeaway is that body composition reflects brain health. The more body fat you have, the less blood flow to the brain, and then you have brain shrinkage and a higher risk for dementia. If you have any questions, leave it for me in the comments below, and I'll be happy to try and answer some of them.